Peace and blessings. Namaste. Happy Earth Day and happy Monday. Welcome to a brand new week. I hope that you're feeling joyous and inspired and motivated. And if you aren't, that's okay too. It's all right to not always be in those places. But hopefully after you hear this message today for our Monday message, it can shift gears for you a little bit so that you feel bold and brave and courageous to face your week. All right, so let's get into it. I love to share this quote with you today. I have no idea who it's by. It's just a quote that I have been using a lot in my own life, and I just found it really valuable. So if any of you out there in the interwebs land know who said this, I would love to give them credit. So you can always drop me a comment. Anyways, the quote is, "Those mountains that you've been carrying around on your shoulders were not meant for you to carry. They were meant for you to climb." Ooh, I remember when I first heard this quote. Those mountains that you are carrying on your shoulders, they were not meant for you to carry. They were meant for you to climb. So often in our lives, if we're sort of like, this, often, not always, but often, these are people who are carrying mountains on their shoulders. Or they're slouched, like this, which is something that I have to work really hard not to do. Because we have these huge, gigantic mountains that we are carrying around on our backs and our shoulders, and they were not meant for us to carry around. We have to put those mountains down, put them down, and start climbing. Those mountains that you face in your life, they're not meant for you to carry around as a burden. They are meant for you to climb. So what does that mean? What does that look like? If you are carrying around a mountain, you are most likely stuck in a story. You are stuck repeating some broken record story, and if you are listening to yourself, you will catch yourself. You will hear yourself tell that story. If you're not listening and you're not self-reflective and you want to be in victim mode, then you will perpetually tell that story. And my friend, I ask you today, is that story serving you? How has it brought anything good into your life? Just take a moment to think about that. And I am totally guilty here. I have done this for a long time. I was really good at being the victim and being stuck in my stories. And at some point, I just got really tired of hearing myself say the same stories. Literally the same stories to person after person after person after person. And it was just like, after a while, I was embarrassed of like, God, I'm still telling this story. Why am I stuck here? And it wasn't until I put the story down, I put the mountain down, and I said, I am going to climb that thing and I'm going to conquer it. I'm going to make my way through that story, and I'm going to stand on top of my story, and I'm going to own my story. We all have stories, and it's okay to have stories. We all have these things that we like to share about our lives and our difficulties and the way people have hurt us and burned us and betrayed our trust, and the stories of being brokenhearted and our stories of failure. And it's okay to have stories. It's not healthy if those stories own you. Meaning, if every time you start talking to a friend, or you're at a gathering, or you're with people and you're just venting this story out, and you're just constantly like the record is stuck on a loop and just going and going and going on the same track all the time, that's when our story is owning us. We are stuck in the story. When we own the stories, we stand on top of it and we can share the story without all the emotions that may come up, and without feeling like a victim, and we share the story to talk about how we move past it or how we are moving through it. And so, my friend, I ask you to just take time today to consider, what mountains have I been carrying around? What stories have I been telling for the last 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, my whole adult life? Here's a common story that we often tell. My parents weren't so great to me, and so that's why I'm such a jerk. My parents were mean to me, and so that's why I'm mean to everybody else. Now, when we say our stories to people, it doesn't come out directly like that. But often we get stuck in sort of that paradigm. If you're over the age of 25 and you're still blaming your unhappiness and your failures on your parents and the way they raised you, I mean this in all seriousness, please go seek out some help, go see a therapist or a psychologist, or just like talk to your friends about these things so that you can move through them and let them go. If you are over the age of 25 and you are still blaming your parents for why you have not moved forward in your life, or you haven't succeeded in your life, or you haven't found love in your life, that is a mountain that you are carrying on your shoulders, and you need to put that mountain down and you need to start climbing that mountain. Get to the top of it so that you feel like you conquered that mountain, you conquered that story. We can't keep blaming everybody else for why we are stuck where we are. And we especially can't keep blaming our parents. So, take some time today to think about those mountains that you've been carrying around and those stories that you've been telling, and ask yourself, has it been serving me? Has it brought any good into my life to continue carrying this mountain of a story around? Has it improved my situation to continue venting, or what I like to call vomiting, our stories all over our friends and anybody who will listen, so that we feel better about ourselves because somebody feels sorry for us? This is not a way to live a successful, productive, happy, joyous life. Now, if you are in your story and things are happening, I'm not discounting our stories and saying that they're not valid or that our emotions around them aren't valid. We of course, we can feel all of those things, but we don't want to stay swimming in it. It's like in a riptide. When you're in a riptide and you're just kind of swimming in the riptide, you're going to drown. You got to realize, I am in a riptide. Let me swim sideways out of this thing so I can get out of the riptide and I can swim free. Right? And those stories that we tell that are on repeat all the time, they're like our riptide, and they're just going to drown us in misery. Right? Or they're like those heavy mountains that we're carrying, and we just get more and more weight, and we get tired, and eventually we can't even stand up straight anymore. When you stand up straight, there's things can't stick on your back. Other people who want to piggyback on you, and other people who want to put their problems on you, and all those stressors and burdens that we carry around here, they can only be carried when we're slunched over like this. When we stand upright, right, we carry things on our shoulders, but we're carrying them around with a straight spine, and only so much can go there. It's when we start to slouch and round forward that things can start to go on our backs. Right, even my children, they like to ride on my back a lot still. They're too big to be doing it, but they do it. And the only way I can carry them now is if I lean forward, because they're just so big. And it's exhausting, it's tiring. I can only do it for so long. If I stand upright, they got to work really hard to hold on to me. So if there are people in your life, if there is drama in your life, if there are burdens that are not your burdens in your life, the more you stand up tall, and the more you stand in your own, and the more you stand in your new story that you're going to write, the less those things can stick, and the harder they have to work to stick to you, and they're going to get tired, and they're going to drop away eventually. Those things will only stick for so long. So it's time we put those mountains down. Some of the mountains are ours. Some of those stories are ours. They're not other people's. And we do need to put them down, and we need to start hiking up those mountains and treading up those mountains and conquering them. They say often that the only way out is in, or the only way out is through. And it's true. Some of those mountains we have to climb, and we have to reach those peaks so that we can look back on what we've traversed and climbed and go, wow, look how far I've come. Look how high I've reached. I have overcome all that stuff that's down there. I can look down and go wow, that is the view of the past. I'm up here now, and the view is totally different. We got to stop carrying these mountains around. It is not serving us, and it is exhausting. And eventually we will feel defeated by the mountain if we can continue to carry it around. The only way we're going to feel triumphant is if we put that mountain down and we start the climb. So I don't know what it is in your life that you need to begin the climb of. I don't know what those mountains are and what those stories are, but my friend, we all have them. So don't feel any shame about the fact that you may have some mountains and you may have some stories that you've been stuck in. We all, as human beings, go through these experiences. And so it's okay. We can let go of the shame that we have around it because you are not alone. I myself have been there, and I was stuck in many of my stories in the victim mentality for a long time with some of those stories. And it took having some really bold and courageous friends who could just like tell me like it was and call me on my bullshit. And so I want you to not have to go through that experience where your friends got to call you on your bullshit, or worse, you end up not having friends because you're always stuck in your stories and your victim mentality. Nobody likes to be around those of us who are going through those stories, or, let me rephrase that. You may have friends in your life who can hold space for you as you're going through your story, but those friends will eventually disappear if you stay stuck in those stories, because we get tired of hearing the same stories. It's like, that friend who's always asking for advice, and you give the advice and they never use it, and they're always stuck in that place, right? I think there was a term for it I heard a year or so back, and it was called an asshole. Don't be an asshole. Don't be the person who's asking for advice or venting your story because you want help, and then you don't utilize the help. You don't apply the help. You don't apply the advice. That's being an asshole. Be a person who really wants to grow and have the courage to climb those mountains, because although it may be difficult and it may get sweaty and it may get messy, right? And it's hard work to climb those mountains, it's much more joyful and much more, it's a much more pleasant way to live in your life than to be always stuck down at the bottom of the mountain. It's even worse to be picking that mountain up and carrying it around your whole life. It's exhausting, and you will shorten your lifespan by carrying those mountains around. I mean this in all seriousness. You will shorten your lifespan, and you will stress the body out. You will overuse the body in a way where you don't have the same longevity that you were designed to have. So my friend, what mountain can you put down? What story has been on repeat for you that you are willing to hit the stop button? Hit that stop button and let's create a new story. Let's create a positive story. And here's a way that you can hit the stop button. Like for me, let's see, what can I share with you personally? At some point in my life, I had to say, up until now, I've been a very shy person. Up until now, I've been really insecure. And so as I'm working through my shyness and my insecurity, this is, me in the past, as I work through my shyness and my insecurity, I can use this statement. Instead of saying, I'm just a really shy person, so it's hard for me to get on camera. That is a story that I am telling that has kept me stuck. And I had to let that go. But it's really hard when I'm still feeling like the shy person. I'm still carrying that mountain around. I had to start climbing that mountain. To put that mountain down and say, I am going to climb this mountain and I'm going to get over my shyness. And so I started saying, up until now, I've been a very shy person. And that gives me the room to kind of grow into a new truth. I hope that makes sense. And I'd really love for you to use this phrase. Up until now, I've had horrible issues with so-and-so in my life, and I've been stuck in that story. Up until now. Whatever it is, fill in the blank and start using that statement. Up until now, I've had issues with trust because I've been burned in the past. That gives you the room to grow into a new story as you unhook from the old story. It gives you room to start climbing that mountain as you decide it's time to put it down. So my friends, I hope that this has been really, really helpful for you, and that you take time to consider these things. Rewatch this video if you need to. Come back to it as often as you need to. I think this is a big one. We do this so much. We carry these mountains around and we look around and we wonder, why isn't anybody helping me? I got this big mountain on my back. So this is me trying to help you, but only you can decide to put that mountain down. So stand up tall, and I want you to open that heart wide, carry your head high, and decide today is the day I put those mountains down. Today is the day that I start to climb those mountains. And starting the climb may just begin with putting the mountain down and looking up and going, shit, how am I going to climb this mountain? Celebrate that moment because you've decided to put the mountain down, and that is the first step. That is the first step, is realizing that you are carrying mountains. All right, I'd love to hear what mountains you are going to put down, and I'd love to hear what stories you are going to decide to stop telling, and I'd love to hear your up until now phrases. I'd love to hear what you got going on. These videos are here to serve you, and I'd love to hear how they are serving you. So please drop me a comment below. Please share this video if you got a friend who's carrying those mountains around, and hopefully this will be a nice way that you can give them a good gentle nudge. All right, my light warriors and my life warriors, I hope that you have an amazing Earth Day, and I hope that you have a beautiful week.